This will be for the con assignment, solve for a side in right triangles. So we're going to be using the three main trig functions for this exercise. In order to remember the formula for each one, just remember SO, CA, TOA. All right, the formula for sine of theta is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine of theta is adjacent over hypotenuse. And tangent of theta is opposite over adjacent. Okay, remember the O stands for opposite, the H stands for hypotenuse, and the A stands for adjacent. So the first step, as usual, will be to label the side lengths. Okay, we're always going to be using the angle that's given, not the right angle, but the other angle that's given. Okay, so like we did in the previous exercise, if you go across from 65, that side is your opposite. If you go across from the right angle, that side is your hypotenuse. And the remaining side is the adjacent. So that is a question mark, so that's what we're looking for. So we don't have anything for the opposite side, but we have the hypotenuse, and we want to find the adjacent. Okay, so we need to use the formula that has adjacent and hypotenuse. Okay, and that's the cosine formula. All right, so we're using this one here. Cosine of the angle equals adjacent over hypotenuse. All right, so the angle is 65 degrees. The adjacent is unknown, so we'll just keep it as a question mark. And the hypotenuse is 7. Okay, so we have question mark divided by 7. In order to solve for the question mark, same as solving for x, we just multiply both sides by 7. All right, the opposite of dividing by 7 is multiplying both sides by 7. All right, and this cancels here. And the cosine of 65 we'll have to do on the calculator. So let me pull that up. Okay, I'm going to have to erase some of this stuff so you can see the calculator, but we're going to do 7 times cosine of 65 on the calculator. So just real quick, notice the 65 is in degrees. Okay, the angle measurement is in degrees. So make sure your calculator is set to degrees. All right, whether you're using the one here or your own calculator. So 7 times cosine is 65. 7 times cosine of 65. Okay, and close the parentheses. All right, there you go right there. Hit equals, and there's your number. Okay, now it says round your answer to the nearest hundredth. That's 2 decimal places. So you go to the third decimal. All right, and if that is 5 or more, you round it up. All right, so this 2.95 becomes 2.96, and that's what you enter in the box. All right, just type 2.96 in the box. That's the length of AC. All right, next problem. Once again, first step is to label the side lengths. Okay, we know that across from the right angle, that is your hypotenuse. All right, and across from the angle that's given, other than the right angle, you go to the side, that's your opposite. Okay, we don't have to worry about adjacent. There's no side length here. All right, so we're dealing with opposite and hypotenuse. Which formula has opposite and hypotenuse? This one right here. All right. So sine of an angle, theta, equals opposite over hypotenuse. All right. The angle theta is 35 degrees. So sine of 35 degrees, that equals opposite, which is 4, divided by hypotenuse, which is question mark. All right. Now what I'm going to do here, let me just make more room. Since the thing I'm trying to solve for is in the denominator, I'm going to take the reciprocal of both sides. Or actually, you know what? I'll just cross multiply. I think that might be easier for you guys. All right, so pretend this is just over 1. Cross multiplying, we have sine of 35 times question mark. And then we have 1 times 4. Okay, and solving for the question mark, we just divide both sides by the sine of 35. Okay, this whole thing is one number right here. So just divide both sides by sine of 35. On the left-hand side, the sine of 35 over itself cancels. We're left with the question mark. I'm going to do this on the calculator. 1 times 4 is just 4, so we can ignore the 1. We're going to do 4 divided by sine of 35. All right, so type in 4 divided by sine, and it has the parentheses, 35, and close the parentheses. Okay, see that? 4 divided by sine of 35. Make sure it's on degrees. Hit equals. Okay, and it always says round to the nearest hundredth. Okay, so you look at the third decimal, and since that decimal is less than 5, we just round it down. So we keep it as 6.97. All right, and you put that in the box. 6.97. All right, let's see. First step is to label the side lengths. Across from the right angle, right here is your hypotenuse. Across from the angle that's given, that is your opposite. All right. So remember, we're dealing with the trig functions. All right, you remember so, ka, toa. All right, so we have opposite and hypotenuse. Which one uses opposite and hypotenuse? Right here, opposite, hypotenuse. So that's going to be the sine function. Okay. So the sine of an angle equals opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, the O is opposite, the H is hypotenuse, the S is sine. All right, so the angle is 65 degrees. So that's going to be the sine of 65. Opposite is question mark. And hypotenuse is 6. All right, so we have question mark divided by 6. And we want to multiply both sides by 6. The opposite of dividing by 6 is multiplying by 6. So just multiply both sides by 6. Okay, on the right-hand side, 6 divided by 6 cancels. And the question mark equals this right here. We're going to do that on the calculator. So 6 times sine of 65. 6, whoops. All right, I hit 6 times sine of 65. You can close the parentheses for the angle. I don't think you have to. Let me see. Okay, it makes you close the parentheses. There you go. 6 times sine of 65. Remember, this sine of 65 is one number. Okay? Hit equals and round to the nearest hundredth. Okay, you look at the third decimal. If it's 5 or more, you round it up. So 5.43 becomes 5.44. Okay, right in the box, 5.44. All right, last one. Across from your right angle, that side length is the hypotenuse. Across from the angle that's given, that side is your opposite. Okay, we don't have it. And over here, the remaining side, that is adjacent. Okay, so the two sides that are given, or that we're dealing with, are adjacent and hypotenuse. So A and H, which formula are we using? This one right here, adjacent and hypotenuse. That's the cosine. All right? Cosine of the angle theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse. All right? So the angle theta is 50. So we have the cosine of 50. The adjacent side is 2. And the hypotenuse is question mark. All right? So last time I cross multiplied. This time, I am going to multiply both sides by the question mark. All right? So here we're dividing by the question mark. I'm going to multiply both sides by the question mark. All right? And on the right-hand side, question mark divided by question mark cancels. All right? And I have question mark times cosine of 50 equals 2. Okay? Solving for question mark, I divide both sides by cosine of 50. All right? Remember, this is one number here. So cosine of 50 over cosine of 50 cancels. Question mark equals this right here. I'm going to do that on the calculator. All right, we're looking at 2 divided by cosine of 50. So 2 divided by cosine of 50. And close the parentheses. See that? 2 divided by cosine of 50. All right, make sure you're set on degrees. Hit equals and round to the nearest hundredth. So you look at the third decimal right here. If it's less than 5, you just round it down. So that's going to be 3.11. And you just put that in the box.